Welcome to The Explainer. So, in the world of independent music, you had two absolute kings ruling the same small city. But behind the curtain, a quiet conflict was starting to boil over, and it almost burned the whole thing to the ground. Today, we're jumping into the hours-long, raw conversation where it all finally came out into the open.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the conflict itself. Then we'll pinpoint the one interview that really lit the fuse. After that, we'll dig into the real issues that were simmering just below the surface. We'll see how they hammered out a deal to move forward, and finally, what we can all learn from this whole mess.
So, let's set the scene, right? You've got two massive artists, Jelly Roll and Ryan Upchurch. Both are from the same little city, and both have these huge, passionate fan bases that will go to war for them. So this isn't just some industry beef. This is a story about a whole culture feeling like it had to pick a side.
And Jelly Roll just nails the heart of the problem with this quote. He's basically saying the internet, the blogs, the industry, they all feed on drama. The idea of two powerful guys from the same scene just coexisting and both winning, it doesn't compute for them. They need a conflict. They need someone to win and someone to lose.
Now this slide is where you see the core of the whole misunderstanding. You've got two artists from the same culture who took completely opposite forks in the road. Jelly Roll is playing the inside game. He calls it Operation Infiltration, trying to change the Nashville system from within. Upchurch, though, he went the other way. He built his own kingdom specifically so he wouldn't have to deal with that system at all. And that one difference in philosophy, well, it explains almost everything that happened next.
Every huge blow-up starts with a single spark, right? For these two, that spark was a short little clip from a media interview that just exploded online and became a full-blown firestorm.
Well, it all boiled down to an interview Jelly Roll did with Taste of Country. They asked him a simple question about where Ryan Upchurch fits into the whole country music scene.
And for Upchurch, you gotta understand, the problem wasn't even what Jelly Roll said. It was the fact that he said it publicly without giving him a heads up first. He felt like a real friend would have picked up the phone. So when it all exploded online, it felt less like a disagreement and more like a betrayal. He was left cleaning up a mess he didn't even know was coming.
But then you flip the coin. In Jelly Roll's perspective was the total opposite. He thought he was doing exactly what a friend should do. He was on this big mainstream platform, and he saw it as a chance to shout out their entire culture, to use his spotlight to shine a light on guys like Upchurch. In his head, he was being an ally, so you can imagine how blindsided he was when it was seen as an attack.
But here's the thing. That interview, it wasn't the actual problem. It was just a crack on the surface that showed how deep the real fracture was. This is where we get to the absolute heart of it all. And this right here, this lays out their fundamental disconnect. Upchurch has this clear line, a real friend is ride or die, someone you'd literally fight for. A music friend, on the other hand, is a business contact you're polite to. He started to feel like their friendship was sliding into that second category, that it was becoming an industry thing. For Jelly Roll, though, that bond was real, no matter what. So this whole debate stopped being about an interview and started being about the very definition of what it means to be a friend.
And it turns out this thing didn't just happen overnight. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Years of little things, small misunderstandings, all fueled by online comments and gossip, were building this wall of suspicion between them. Like, for instance, Jelly Roll announced a boxing-themed concert. The internet immediately decided it was a jab at Upchurch's People's Champ tour. And because they weren't talking, those little narratives of disrespect just festered.
This whole story with country superstar Morgan Wallen is the perfect example of what was fueling Upchurch's paranoia. After a bunch of really weird and, frankly, disrespectful interactions, it just cemented his belief that the whole Nashville machine was toxic. And from his point of view, that was the world Jelly Roll was now choosing to be a part of, and that just created even more of a gap between them.
So, after hours and hours of just going back and forth, arguing about the past, the whole vibe of the conversation finally shifted. They started talking about how to build a future instead of just rehashing old wounds.
And you know, the real turning point was when their mutual friend, Adam Calhoun, showed up. He literally flew in to be the mediator. And he was the one who just cut through all the industry talk and all the online drama and reminded them, hey, you guys are actual friends. He was the reality check that both of them desperately needed.
In the end, they didn't just hug it out and call it a day. They actually built a system. They created this secret alliance, as they called it, with 3 dead simple rules. And all 3 rules were designed to protect their friendship from the exact outside forces that nearly tore it apart.
It was a conscious choice to put their friendship above all the public noise.
So, after all of that, what's the big picture? What can we actually take away from this incredibly raw, chaotic, but really honest conversation?
You know, the biggest takeaway here is so relevant for all of us today. It really comes down to a choice between the algorithm and a phone call. Upchurch even said it himself. His own social media feeds are literally built to show him things that will make him angry, not things that will foster connection. This whole saga is proof that in a world that runs on drama, the only real solution is to just talk to each other directly.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question. Yeah, they shook hands, they made a deal, but in an industry and a world that literally profits from their conflict, the real test is whether or not that peace can actually last.